Shut up and sit down.
MVP Picks, your home for mixed martial arts news and betting advice.
Welcome. This is the second episode of the MVP Picks podcast. I'm your host, Mike Picklick, and we got a good show today. We got a big fight this upcoming weekend, UFC 262, Chandler versus Oliveira for the lightweight belt. That's going to be a big night of fights. Then we got some MMA news that happened this week. McGregor tops the Forbes list as the highest paid athlete of 2021. Anthony Johnson got into a little bit of trouble. We'll have more details on that. I reported on my podcast last week that Where Doom's TKO loss at the PFL 3 probably won't be overturned. But good news, it was, and it was turned to a no contest. So we'll get more into that later in the show. UFC 262, of course, lost a good fight in Edmund Shabazian versus Jack Hermansson. That was canceled after someone in Hermansson's corner tested positive for COVID-19. But not to worry, the fight's actually going to be moved to May 22nd's fight night. So that's going to be, we're not totally losing the fight, we're just getting it next week. So at least there's that. And lastly, we have a couple fights announced, a couple big ones in the middleweight division with Derek Brunson and Darren Till, and the second one being Paulo Costa versus Jared Cannonier. So those are going to be pretty big fights for the middleweight division. And lastly, Islam Makhachev, known better as one of the training partners for Khabib Nurmagomedov, has a fight. He's returning to the Octagon on July 17th, and he's going to be taking on Thiago Moises. So that's it for MMA news. We're going to be talking a lot about that. And then we're going to be talking about some UFC betting for UFC 262, Chandler versus Oliveira. There is a lot of good fights to make some money off of this weekend, guys. So we're going to get into that later in the show. So, yeah, here we go.
It's now time for your mixed martial arts news update.
All right, let's get right into the news. So starting off with Conor McGregor reaching the top of Forbes 2021 list of highest paid athletes. The UFC star earned $180 million over the last 12 months. Most of his earnings came from his $150 million sale of the majority stake in his whiskey brand, Proper Number 12. That's pretty incredible. You know, there was this video that kind of surfaced the internet when that was announced, and it was a brief meeting between Cristiano Ronaldo and Conor McGregor. And, you know, it's just two greats chopping it up, talking about life, talking about their accomplishments, and the Forbes list comes up. And McGregor just gets all giddy about it, and he makes the statement saying, like, listen, give me a couple years, I'm going to be on top of the list. Don't you worry, I'm going to be right there with you. And Cristiano kind of, you know, he shrugged it off, he laughed, and, you know, they all kind of shared a nice little laugh together. But, I mean, Mystic Mac comes right again. He is the highest paid athlete in 2021. That is incredible for the sport. That's incredible for the UFC, and really good for Conor McGregor. I mean, from a guy that I think he was on welfare in the beginning of his career, you know, barely making ends meet, you know, trying to find a fight, and a couple years later, he's the highest paid athlete in 2021. That's, you know, good for him. So getting into this is crazier news. So Anthony Johnson, who recently just fought in Bellator 258 and made his Bellator debut and his return, he was 5 years off the sport, was arrested and charged with identity theft. So police arrested Johnson on Saturday at the Mohegan Sun Casino in Connecticut, 1 day after his return to mixed martial arts. The arrest stems from a November 2019 complaint in which the alleged victim said their credit card was being used without permission. A round-trip plane ticket from Florida to New Jersey was apparently purchased, and Johnson's name was found on the passenger ticket. A police investigation determined Johnson illegally obtained the credit card to purchase the ticket. Johnson, 37, was taken into custody nearly 18 months after the complaint and one day after recording a knockout win over Jose Augusto in the Bellator light heavyweight tournament. This is pretty insane. I mean, I hope justice is served. But I mean, poor Johnson to come up to have a performance like that at Bellator 258, and then the next day you get arrested. I mean, I hope everything gets sorted out because this can take some time off his career. So Scott Coker, president of Bellator, has yet to make a statement about the matter, and really, it's kind of troubling. I mean, the first question I kind of thought is, okay, who's going to continue the Bellator light heavyweight Grand Prix? Will they get Yoel, who originally had to pull out of the fight between Johnson and Romero, or are they going to find someone else? A lot of questions surrounding this. I mean, we don't really know what's going to happen with Johnson, and then they're going to need a replacement, and that's a big spot to like a big shoe to fill. Because listen, Bellator, they're getting bigger, and that last event, I feel really kind of put them on the map again. Like people really started talking about it. It was a great card, and to have a star of your promotion, get in trouble like this, and he might be out for like the year, and you might need to move on without him. But hope everything gets settled with that. That's pretty awful news, pretty shocking news to hear, and hopefully he gets that settled out. So I reported last podcast Fabricio Werdum, who suffered a TKO loss in PFL 3 to Renan Ferreira. That's been turned to a no contest. The New Jersey State Athletic Control Board overturned the controversial result of the PFL bout between Fabricio and Ferreira to a no contest, the league announced Monday. So they were pretty quick on it. Again, if you're wondering what happened, the fight began where Doom initiated the grappling, was trying to take Ferreira down, eventually did take him down, and he got him in a triangle choke, and it was very tight. He was squeezing very hard, and referee Keith Peterson was standing on the other side and couldn't see Ferreira tap. So where Doom let go, Ferreira just kept on punching, and obviously, Keith Peterson didn't see that the Ferreira had tapped, so it kind of eventually turned into a win for Ferreira as he scored the TKO on the 43-year-old Fabricio Werdum. But that's good news for Fabricio. Kind of like saves his debut a little bit and gives him more of a chance to win the PFL heavyweight title, which is which is great because, like I said last podcast, he is in the later stages of his career, and I want to see him go out on top. A lot of MMA fighters, in their later stages, kind of suffer a little bit, whether it be a lot of losses, a lot of knockouts. They get finished easily. But I'm hoping the best for Fabricio, and I think that he's gonna pull through, and it's gonna be very interesting as the PFL season goes forward. Okay, lots of news surrounding fight announcements, and a couple big ones for the middleweight division. Paulo Costa is taking on Jared Cannonier, and Darren Till is going to be taking on Derek Brunson. Listen, the only one that's coming off a win streak in those set of fights is Derek Brunson. He's riding a 3-fight win streak, coming off of a great win over Kevin Holland, and he's going to be taking on Darren Till, who is coming off of a loss to former champion Robert Whitaker. So that's a very telling fight for the middleweight division. very big fight for Brunson. Of like, if he can get this win over Darren Till, I mean, he's right there for a title shot. He's riding the 4-fight win streak. He's been very active. Yeah, that's a very big fight for him. As for Darren, um, this is kind of a pick me up fight, kind of like a welcome back. He's been off for a little bit. He recently had to pull out of his bout against Marvin Vettori because he suffered a broken collarbone. That'll be a good tune-up fight for Darren Till. As for Jared Cannonier and Paulo Costa, both coming off of losses to former champions. Paulo Costa just recently fought for the belt against Izzy Adesanya and suffered a TKO loss. And Jared Cannonier went to a decision with Robert Whitaker, but was outclassed against the former champ. So that's another telling fight. You know what? I can honestly see the winners of these two middleweight bouts either fighting each other or either one of them, whoever gets the more spectacular finish, is probably going to fight for the belt. So very, very, very important fights for the middleweight division, and maybe it might be a little bit more telling as to who Israel Adesanya, the current middleweight champ, who he might fight next. So good news for the middleweight division. And then lightweight news. Islam Makhachev is going to be taking on Thiago Moises. Makhachev, of course, 19-1, has been very successful in the UFC and has stated this week on Twitter that a lot of the top 10 lightweights aren't signing the dotted line. A lot of guys are turning down to fight him, and I don't blame him. He was kind of, in my opinion, I thought he was kind of shoved into the rankings. He didn't really fight anyone too crazy. Um, Not like some of the other UFC lightweights did. I feel like there's kind of like this, he hasn't really proved himself yet. He hasn't really fought any big names yet. But Thiago Moises, that's a big test. Listen, he's not ranked, but he's coming off of 3 wins against former ranked lightweights, and that is Michael Johnson, Bobby Green, and Alexander Hernandez. And of course, Islam Makhachev is riding a crazy streak right now. He recently is coming off his March 6th performance over Drew Dober. He got a submission in that bout. So, I don't know. This is kind of I think this is a fight for Makhachev to make a statement, and it goes the same way for Thiago. Both guys are highly touted. Makhachev, of course, being the training partner for Khabib Nurmagomedov, and Thiago is a submission specialist. So if you're a grappling fan, this is the fight for you. This is going to be high level grappling, high level submission attempts, and really we're going to see Russian Sambo versus Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in this matchup. So this is going to be an awesome fight. Lastly, we got some news in heavyweight boxing. And if you haven't heard, Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, Saudi Arabia for August 7th or August 14th. The unification of the heavyweight belt. Seriously, this is going to be one of the biggest fights in boxing heavyweight history. I mean, the last time the heavyweight belt was unified was Lennox Lewis versus Evander Holyfield, and that was in like 1999. This was your MVP picks news. Now let's get into some MVP power picks for this upcoming UFC 262 weekend.
It's now time for your MVP Power Picks recap.
All right, let's get into some MVP power picks. Now, I know I said last week I would be going over the entire card, but with more thinking. I think I'm just going to give a handful of my favorite picks. It just helps because I'll be more confident in that versus having like 15 other picks that I'm, not really sure of. So let's get right into it. Starting with the main event, I was with Michael Chandler on Monday. He was at plus 115, and I am still with Michael Chandler. He is down at plus 110. So the lines are moving, and expect the line to really drastically move on Saturday because that is when all the money is going to be flooding in. As is, it's the only event on Saturday, so it's gonna really dilute the market and it's gonna definitely go down. So make sure you hop on Michael Chandler plus 110 right away. Okay, so next we have Tony Ferguson versus Beneil Dariush. We were with Beneil Dariush on Monday, and I think we're gonna still ride with him on Friday. So Beneil was at minus 155 on Monday. He is now minus 175 on Friday. So money is starting to come in on Beneil. That does make me a little bit nervous, but we're still going to roll with Beneil Dariush. He's at minus 175. That will go up. Like I said, Saturday UFC is the only thing on, so it's going to really change the odds come Saturday. So make sure you hop on that right away. Another fight I like, Katlyn Chookagian versus Viviane Araújo. Katlyn is coming off of a loss to Valentina Shevchenko, the flyweight champion, and I think Viviane takes this one. I think she's just more of on a she's on a win streak right now, having come off a decision win over Roxanne Modafferi, and I just think that I don't know. I like Viviane for this one. I just think she's got a lot of momentum behind her, and I think she's here to make a statement on Saturday. So, Viviane Araújo over Katlyn Chookagian. Next fight, Edson Barboza versus Shane Burgos. On Monday, Edson Barboza was at minus 105 and Shane Burgos was at minus 115. And Edson Barboza is now the underdog and Shane Burgos is sitting at minus 138. I think I'm going to have to go with Barboza here. I think the value is too good right now. And you know what? Barboza made the change from featherweight to lightweight. He looks like a totally different fighter, and he's coming off of a win. Shane, however, is coming off of a loss, and I just feel like that's Edson at plus 110. That's good value. That's a steal. So we're gonna definitely go with Edson Barboza versus over Shane Burgos. Jacare Souza versus Andre Muniz. This one kind of tough to call. Jacare is coming off of a loss to Kevin Holland. And is getting up there in age. He's 41 years old. I would say also that he is fighting for his job here. I think because of the age, because of his last loss, I think he's got to make a statement this weekend, and I think he will over Andre Muniz. He's sitting at minus 120, so kind of a pick 'em fight. I would definitely lean more towards Jacare Souza over Andre Muniz. Nothing against Muniz. I feel like he just hasn't really proven himself yet. And again, he can prove me wrong this weekend. This is a big opportunity for him. So a couple more fights. Mike Grundy versus Lando Vannata. Mike Grundy is sitting at minus 125. Vannata is at plus 105. On Monday, Vannata was at minus 105 and Grundy was at minus 115. So the odds definitely changed. Lando is now the underdog, and that's where I think we're gonna go. Mike Grundy came off a decision loss a couple months back, and Vannata also is coming off of a decision loss. But I feel like Grundy is a very like he relies heavily on his grappling, and I think Lando Vannata is gonna give him a lot of trouble with that. And plus 105, that's that's good value for Venata, so we're gonna go with him on there. And then the last fight that I will be picking is Antonio Shevchenko over Andrea Lee. Shevchenko is obviously the sister of flyweight champion Valentina Shevchenko, and she's sitting at minus 125. That's, I would expect I would have expected her to be a heavier favorite, but she isn't. So that's definitely due to change on Saturday. So hop on that right now. So just a quick recap. MVP power picks. We are picking Michael Chandler, Beneil Dariush, Vivian Arago, Edson Barboza, Jacare Souza, Lando Venata, Antonina Shevchenko. So those are the MVP power picks. Let me know how you do. I'm going to be posting my official picks again on Saturday, a little bit before the fight, so you can get your bets in. And yeah, let me know in the comments. Let me know some of your favorite picks this weekend. And yeah, this has been the MVP Picks podcast. We will see you next week. Enjoy the weekend of fights. Cheers.